He's a United States Army veteran, served in the Green Beret. He stepped on a landmine in Afghanistan, received extensive injuries, was able miraculously return to the battlefield. He's written a book, and his mission continues on in war-torn countries. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Today radio show. I'm your host. My name's John J. Wiley. In addition to being a radio broadcaster, I'm a retired police sergeant. For the latest news articles and much more, check out our website, letradioshow.com. In the Law Enforcement Today show, we'll be joined by special guests. We'll be talking about their experiences and issues affecting law enforcement officers, first responders, their families, their community, and victims of horrendous crimes. Be sure to like us on Facebook. Our page is Law Enforcement Today Radio Show. Check out the daily articles on our website, letradioshow.com. And while you're there, download our free app. We are thrilled to partner with Shatterproof at FHE, the world-renowned treatment program for first responders, because at times, helpers need help. Exclusive treatment services for first responders who may suffer from exposure to trauma, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and substance abuse. For free 24/7 information, call 833-776-1420. 833-776-1420. That's 833-776-1420. Or online at fhehealth.com. That's fhehealth.com. Under programs, you'll find details about Shatterproof. Joining us from the Panhandle portion of Florida. Yes, there's a Panhandle section on the western part of the state. Ryan Hendrickson on the phone. Ryan, thanks so much for being a guest on Law Enforcement Today's show. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Yours is a very unique story. And when I was first approached, I was like, not only yeah, but heck yeah, let's get this guy on. You're a retired U.S. Army veteran. You served in the Green Beret, and you were, for lack of better words, blown up in Afghanistan. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, 2010.
It's hard to describe that in ways that don't seem harsh. And we're not strangers to having harsh and tough conversations on the show. We have them all the time. Ryan, before we get into your story, let's talk about how you got in the military, how long you served.
So basically the military for me was kind of a path that was going to happen, groomed by my dad for years. But, he gave me the option. At 18, he said I can basically go out and do whatever I want to do. He highly recommends the military, but he made it pretty clear that I couldn't stay there, because if I stayed there, then I was going to be that guy at 42 years old at the gas station pumping gas, talking about my senior year on the football field, stuff like that. So he had to go.
I look back and say I should have gone in the military when I was a teenager. I wanted to go to college, and I was lousy at that. I was not good. And all I did was low-paid jobs, and it was a pain in the butt for my parents. And that's really all I did for 3 years. Yeah.
No, for me, the decision was made that I had to go. But in the mid-90s, it was crazy. Like, the services really didn't need anybody except for the Navy. So that's kind of what got my path started in the military. Was, the first branch that I chose was the Navy, because they were really the only people that needed anybody in the mid-90s.
How did you go from Navy to Army?
Well, there was another branch in the middle there. I went Navy to break-in service to Air Force to Army.
So you served in 3?
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. Most people, I've heard of guys doing 2. When I say guys, that means men and women doing 2 branches of the military. I've never heard of anybody doing 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and kind of use the military as a place to figure it out. But yeah, it wasn't really that difficult at all, jumping around. I mean, once I got out of the Navy, I was out for a couple of years. And so joining another branch, that was simple. But from the Air Force to the Army, that was just, I needed a major shakeup in my life. And then the Air Force was downsizing certain career fields, and the Army was taking those downsizing. So that was easy.
So you got in the Army, and then you made the decision, I want to be in the Green Beret. I want to be in Special Forces. most people don't do that. They don't come with that mindset. My wife and I we talked about last night, BUDS training, other basic training for special services on, I think it's National Geographic or Discovery Channel, one or the other. And it's amazing what they go through to even pass the basic training selection process. How did you come about the mindset, this is something I want to do?
So I mean, when I was in the Navy, I had I went to BUDS and I didn't make it. And so I still, I had that drive that I wanted to do something. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but the Army opportunity rolled around, and it was actually something that I had been looking at years prior, but it was a marriage decision that I didn't join the Army, went Air Force instead. And then, when we got divorced, I just went back to what I was going to do in the beginning. But, I guess the mindset behind it all was, number one, I wanted the challenge. And number two, if I never wanted to be that old man that looked back and wondered, what it would have been like if I just would have tried. So I just said, screw it. I'll give it a shot. I'm probably not going to make it, but, at least I can say I tried. And then I wound up making it. So
I think it's a fair guess to say that you'll never be the old guy who looks back and go, maybe I could have done this. I think you've done far more than most people ever imagined they would do in their lifetime.
Yeah, that was one of my dad's big things, lessons, I guess, growing up, was you never want to be that guy that has, I wish I would have tried this. I wish I would have done that. He said, because it's a lonely world for older people, because you're looking back at wasted life, that you never took the opportunities that presented themselves. And now that, you don't have those opportunities. Yeah. You look back and it's just, man, I wish I would have fill in the blanks. So I never, that's kind of how I've tailored my life. And it's revolved in 3 branches of the service, a couple tryouts at different, special operation units and stuff like that. But that's basically all it boils down to is, in the end, because I'm a firm believer that the beginning chapter of your life is written and the end chapter of your life is written. When you're born and when you die, that's in God's hands. But the middle pages, of your book of life, it's up to you to fill them in. And in the end, is it going to be worth reading? And so, that's why I've done the majority of the stuff I've done.
Speaking of book, you wrote a book called Tip of the Spear, the incredible story of an injured Green Beret's return to battle. And we will talk about that more. I agree with you. The beginning and end is pretty much predetermined. The rest is totally up to us. And I'm also a firm believer in, God can move mountains. Faith will move mountains, but he's going to ask us to do all the work, the heavy lifting. So bring a pickaxe and shovel. And you're going to do uncomfortable stuff to get to where you're at. And I think it's fair to say you've been through some real uncomfortable stuff, some real painful stuff in your journey. Yeah.
No, I've definitely had some bumps and bruises and some wake-up calls along the way. That is for sure.
And we'll talk about those in a moment. When you got into Special Forces, your specialty was clearing landmines and IEDs, improvised explosive devices. And that's been a big thing in combat for quite a while. And you were doing that in Afghanistan, correct?
Yes, actually. So as an 18 Charlie, or a demolitions expert, the engineer on the team, it just kind of went hand in hand. My specialty is demolitions, but in Afghanistan, it kind of equated over to route clearance and IEDs and landmines and stuff like that. So
we're going to take a short break. We're talking with Ryan Hendrickson. He is retired United States Army Green Beret veteran. He's also author of the book, Tip of the Spear, the incredible story of an injured Green Beret's return to battle. When we return, we have some really incredible things to tell you about Ryan's journey, including stepping on a landmine and what happened afterwards. Trust me, you don't want to go anywhere. This is some mind-blowing stuff on the Law Enforcement Today show. We'll be right back. This would have been our 25th anniversary. If he'd said something, we would have gotten help. but now I feel responsible for missing his signs. I don't think the guilt will ever fully go away. Daddy let me wear his helmet so I could pretend to be like him fighting fires. I wish he was here. I want him back. Every year, more first responders die from suicide than in the line of duty. Do you feel like giving up because of PTSD or other symptoms? Call FHE Health at 833-776-1420 to learn about our specialized treatment program for first responders. Evidence-based therapies for trauma, depression, and other issues. Innovative neurotechnologies that relieve symptoms and speed brain recovery. Peer support groups with others who understand what it's like. FHE Health can help you show up for the people who depend on you as a happier, healthier version of you. Because life is so much better with you around. Call FHE Health now at 833-776-1420. Online at FHEHealth.com. Back to our conversation on the Law Enforcement Today show with Ryan Hendrickson. Ryan is retired United States Army veteran, Green Beret veteran. As a matter of fact, he served in United States Army, U.S. Navy, United States Air Force. He stepped on a landmine in Afghanistan, which we'll talk about in a few moments. He's also authored the book, Tip the Spear, the incredible story of an injured Green Beret's return to battle. That'll give you a hint about what's heading away. Ryan, your story, in so many ways I can relate to being, 18, dad having a conversation with you. Look, you can do whatever you want, but you can't do it here. One of those deals. I get that, and I wish I'd done things differently, but hindsight's 2020. So you went in the Navy first, then the Air Force, then the United States Army, and you went to Green Beret selection, passed that, wound up becoming a demolitions expert, and were deployed multiple times to Afghanistan. And this is where things, understandably, get really, really sketchy. Take us to that incident where you stepped on a landmine.
Yeah, so my first deployment to Afghanistan was shortly after I graduated the Q course. I arrived in the 7th Special Forces Group, and we were on our way to Afghanistan. It was during the surge in 2010. So fast forward, we were in the Chutu River Valley, which is Uruzgan province, and it hugs the border between Uruzgan and Helmand province. Real bad area. Insurgents using the river valley to move guns and drugs and everything else. But we had I guess you can call it a kind of a permanent listening observation post, LPOP, along the river valley there, and we were in fights daily. It's just the way it was. And then there was basically an operation that we were going to clear the entire river valley, suspected up to 2,500 insurgents in the valley. So it was a major operation, multiple ODA teams and commando elements and Afghan Special Forces. Well, the operation kicked off September 11th, 2010. And so we start moving to our area that we're clearing, that my ODA is clearing first, which was the southern part of the river. And so, now it's 01:02 in the morning. It's September 12th. We come up to our first set of compounds that we're to clear. And we, as with everything, you do rehearsals upon rehearsals before you even conduct, before you get the green light at all with your Afghan forces. So as rehearsed, when we got about 25 meters from the first set of compounds to be cleared, I told our interpreter, Nick, I was like, all right, man, just like we rehearsed, let's get the guys down there and let's start clearing these compounds. And I turned around and they weren't going to move. It's like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't they going to move? They said, well, it's too dangerous. Like, I know, that's why we're here. That's kind of the whole point, this for your country kind of thing. They said, well, you should go first. You're better trained. It's like, well, yeah, if we were in Texas clearing, I would agree with you, but this is Afghanistan. So let's go. No, they're not moving. So I turn around to tell my partner basically what's going on, and he just grabs me by the shoulder and basically says, what is Nick doing? Get him away from that compound. Turn back around, and our terp had ran all the way down to the main entry point of the compound, or the breach, or whatever you want to call it, doorway. And he was trying to, silent, because we're still noise and light discipline at this time. He's trying to wave these guys down there, Afghan Rambo, follow me kind of thing. And so, and if you lose your terp, if your terp gets hit, shot, whatever it is, you can't communicate with your partner force. And we were legitimately, there was 3 to 4 times the amount of Afghans as Americans, which is normal. So, we didn't have the numbers to be losing our only terp. So I moved down to the breach point or the entryway, grabbed him by the shoulder, pull him back, and he's like, and then in my own way of letting him know that he's messed up, I, quietly again, I push him back towards our position and say, hey, we'll regroup, but don't be pulling this. And you never want to have your back or your sides or whatever your weak points exposed to the unknown. So I turned back into the doorway to cover his advance back. Because we had taken a ton of fire from these compounds in the past, so we assumed there was people in them. So I'm covering his movement back, and I see something move in the compound courtyard. So I decide to take a 3 to 4 inch step to kind of look around to see, if I could kind of pie behind the wall right there, because it was just the entryway with mud hut wall. And right when I stepped a little bit inside the breach, I stepped on a pressure plate IED that was inside the doorway. And so that was the beginning. That was September 12th, 2010, which pretty much started off the entire valley clearance. I was the first wounded guy coming out of the valley, but definitely not the last. There was quite a few.
First of all, I can't imagine. My wife and we've watched these shows. Then, like, there's one about Camp Keating. I have relatives named Keating and the firefights they were in, and I find that just I can't wrap my head around that kind of intensity, that kind of life and death threats, that kind of violence. I can't. And I've been through a lot of stuff in my years. So when you stepped on this, was there a moment when you went, uh-oh?
So it was actually crazy with how the human body reacts, because at first I didn't know what happened. And so I just remember I was on the ground and I couldn't get up. I couldn't move. Getting angry because why can't I move? And I couldn't breathe because of all the dust and the ammonia from the HME and everything like that. I couldn't breathe. And I was like, and my first thought that came to mind is if I don't get fresh air, I'm going to suffocate. But why can't I move? Nothing hurt yet. I didn't feel pain or anything like that. And I didn't know, like, the explosion to me just sounded like a very loud pop. Everybody else, it rocked the valley, but to me, it just sounded like a pop. I guess it was because I was in the middle of it. But it took. I mean, I remember laying there, and finally, I just was like, "Hey, calm down, man. See what's going on." And as the dust started to clear, that's when, it's still. And granted, I'm talking for minutes, but this is seconds. Yeah. But as the dust starts to clear, I look down at my right leg, and my boot is at a 90-degree angle to my leg. And I was like, that's really weird. Why would my boot be doing that? Because your mind can't comprehend that, you're...
nothing about it makes sense, Ryan. It's, I've been through stuff, and the thought process is so illogical. And you try to explain it to people, and they're like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense at all. So when you say my response was, what the heck is going on? This isn't right.
Yeah, your mind can't comprehend it because it's, maybe a paramedic or a first responder, they can comprehend something like that because they see car accident victims and stuff like that. But for me, I've definitely had seen guys blown up before that, but I've never seen myself blown up. So I'm looking down at my leg, and I just was like, wait a second, I don't remember taking my boot off. Why is my boot kind of, just over there off to the side? So I grabbed behind my right.
There's so much more to talk about. This is the Law Enforcement Today Show. Return our conversation with Ryan Hendrickson in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Flintstone Media has been the digital messaging bedrock of several brands and businesses, serving as a highly resourceful podcast production house and consultancy firm for over 6 years. Work with a leader in the industry and add a new podcast to your brand's content offerings. From show development and setup through recording and distribution, Jemmy will lend her experience launching dozens of podcasts and producing over 1,000 episodes, making creating your show a simple and easy turnkey process for you. Visit flintstonemedia.com for podcast samples. That's flintstonemedia.com.
Hey, folks, when you have a chance, check out our Facebook page. Do a search on Facebook for Law Enforcement Today radio show. When you get there, click like and follow. That's click like and follow Law Enforcement Today radio show on Facebook. After a conversation on Law Enforcement Today's show with Ryan Hendrickson, United States Army veteran. He also served in the Navy, Air Force. He's a Green Beret veteran, and he was injured when he stepped on a landmine while serving in Afghanistan before he went to break. And by the way, he's author of the book, Tip of the Spear, the incredible story of an injured Green Beret's return to battle. You got me on the edge of my seat, Ryan, listening to this. The one thing that came to my mind is I never thought anything bad would ever happen to me. And when something bad started happening, it's like unreal. It doesn't seem, why would this be happening to me? Why would they do this to me? They don't even know me. Did those thoughts cross your mind when all of a sudden you realize that, hey, my leg is really damaged, my foot's damaged, I stepped on a landmine? Did you ever think, why me?
I did. It's very easy to. People have been wondering for years, and I think this is what draws a lot of young men into combat or military service, is for that opportunity to answer the question, what would I do if somebody's trying to kill me? How would I react if somebody's trying to kill me? I think that is kind of a lot of men in the world. They have that question, and I think it's been a question that has been there for years, if not forever. But you don't actually, your brain can't comprehend somebody trying to kill you. It's not natural. Well, I mean, I guess killing is kind of natural, but it's not. Your brain can't comprehend the fact that somebody actually wants to take your life. Like, this device was there to kill me. Why? Like, what? And so, yeah, no, I went through that was later on down the line, but I definitely went through the full range of emotions of, why are you trying to kill me kind of thing. But then you look at the obvious of it and it's like, oh yeah, because I'm killing you.
One of the things that you said that really resonated with me was I got really angry. Because at times where people had tried to kill me or do serious bodily harm, I got really angry in response. It was, I don't mean, and I try to explain to people and I can't find the right words. It's almost like a primordial anger that's it's born out of self-survival. I don't know where it comes from, and I don't get like that in everyday life. Were you that angry, or was it just you were ticked off?
No, I was pretty angry for the fact that somebody wanted to keep me from going home to my family, and so yeah, it was very I was very, very angry after I actually figured out what happened. Because, again, I mean, it took a little bit for my brain to actually comprehend what had just happened until I, reached behind my right knee, pulled my leg up, and my boot flopped over the side, and I saw my tib and my fib sticking out of my pants, and then I was like, oh yeah. That's what happened. And then it all
I was going
hit you
to
like
ask
a set of bricks.
When you realized how bad your injuries were.
Yeah, it was at that point because again, my boot and my foot just looked so awkward, and I just couldn't figure out why it was just kind of sitting off to the side of my leg. And then once I, pulled my leg up from behind my knee, because you got to think, I have body armor on, I have a demo backpack on, so I'm pretty weighted down. But yeah, once I pulled my leg up and actually looked, and my boot just kind of flopped over the side, that's when I was like, oh, okay. And then that's when the pain hit, and it was just like a Mack truck, and okay, this is the pain that you're supposed to feel. So
I'm imagining from watching films and watching news reports in Afghanistan, when you're injured in battle like that, you're life flighted somewhere. They do initial medical procedures on you, and then you go to Germany. Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, so to get me from Afghanistan to Germany, it took them almost a week. It was like 5 days, which is very long. But I had lost a lot of blood, and I had different infections that were going on. But yeah, my route back to the States went basically from battlefield to Tarankout to Kandahar to Kabul to Germany to Brooks Army Medical Center in San Antonio. So that was pretty much where I ended up.
And your initial assessment from the doctors, the team there, what did they say? What was the prognosis with your injuries?
The best that I can remember, because I was a battle. So my casualty collection card has below the knee amputee on it. I'm not exactly sure what kept all my leg together as far as why they did that. I think it had something to do with all the infections and all the wound vacs that were kind of controlling all that. But yeah, when I got to San Antonio, to the best of my memory, it was pretty much this, I mean, a lot of guys in 2010 were getting wounded. And the hospital was full of double, triple, single amputees and everything like that. So, but I was just pretty much in the amputee pool. They were trying to figure out what to do with me because I had a lot of tissue still there. Because when it comes to amputation, my doctor told it to me like this. He said, I can fix any bone problem. I can fix any destruction to a bone. I can't fix tissue. And the IED that I stepped on was pretty clean, whereas then it cut straight up through my foot. So it blew my foot in half and it exited out at my calf. It didn't, and so, yeah, the leg was hanging on by skin and muscle tissue, but there wasn't a lot of tissue damage. And so that's when, all of a sudden the question came up, hey, we're in this phase of the limb salvage, we're doing these limb salvages now, we're beginning it, all the research into limb salvage and studying limb salvage and whatnot like that. And maybe you don't need to lose this leg, but you're pretty much going to be the poster boy for limb salvage because we've never salvaged a limb as bad as yours. We would basically be reattaching your leg. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I guess I didn't walk into it.
You didn't have a whole lot of choices. Your choices were bad or bad.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the limb salvage program, and they said, hey, it's a very small chance that this will work, but if it works, it's going to help with research. It'll rewrite limb salvage, I guess medical exploration or whatever you want to call it. And it'll help a lot of people. And if it doesn't work, well, you never really had a leg anyway, so we'll just take it off like you were going to have. And so what do you want to do?
Dude, you had this conversation so casually. I don't mean that as an insult or offensive. It's like, this is major stuff. And you're like, this is the way it was.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I don't know. I've had years, this was 2010, and I've definitely gone through the full, I guess, range of emotions from being extremely angry to being a victim, to being entitled, to feeling sorry for myself, to taking control of my life again, to using this injury to, help other people. And because I have gone through, this full range of emotions and life changing, I guess, mind states, it's easy for me to talk about because now I'm at a point in my life when I can use this injury and the mental minefields, literally, that I had to go through because of this injury. I can use it to help other people.
And we're going to take a short break on that note. This is Law Enforcement Today's show. When we return, really amazing things from Ryan's story. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Missed an episode of Law Enforcement Today? You don't have to anymore, because now you can listen to it on Podopolo, the free new app that makes listening anytime, anywhere so easy. Catch up on shows you've missed and chat with John J. Wiley right there too. Download for free on the Apple or Google Play stores. That's Podopolo. And John J. Wiley wants to hear from you inside Podopolo.
If you're on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, be sure to look for me and follow me. My name's John, the letter J, Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y. You can also search for @LET Radio Show. That's John J. Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, @LET Radio Show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. Return to conversation with Ryan Hendrickson on the Law Enforcement Today radio show. Ryan is a United States Army veteran. He also served United States Navy, Air Force. He's a Green Beret. And in 2010, well, I believe it was, he stepped on a landmine and in Afghanistan, and his leg was really severely damaged. For winter break. And by the way, he's the author of the book, Tip of the Spear, The Incredible Story of an Injured Green Beret's Return to Battle. That should tip you off about what's heading your way. Before we went to break, Ryan, you talked about limb salvage. Fast forward, they do this procedure. You go through, how long was your rehab?
So that's what was actually pretty miraculous about the whole process was from my rehab process was about 14 months, which it kind of sounds long, but it's not very long for basically having a limb reattached. So I started getting a little name, Wolverine, because of how quick I was healing, and just taking to all the procedures, whether it was skin graft or growing back a couple inches of my tibia, my bottom of my foot repairing, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it was about 14 months.
You're a miracle, and I'm not lost on the fact that the surgeons, the medical teams, the doctors, the nurses, the physical therapists, they're all part of the miracle too. So, but here's the really stunning part of your story. You were able to return to full duty after all this.
Kind of.
Well, how many people step back into the bad zone after something like this? Not a whole lot.
Yeah, no, I found my way back to combat. We'll put it that way. But no, after I was released from Brooks Army Medical Center, I was able to return to limited duty on a waiver. So I was medically retired. I fought the medical retirement and then got a continue on active duty waiver, which is a COAD waiver. And I could return to my unit, but I'm non-deployable, can't be on my feet longer than such amount of time, and all this other stuff, desk job. And then I go through different physical therapy options that special operations have, and just kind of prove myself there. Unit goes back on a deployment to Afghanistan, and I just kind of fit in where I get in. Basically, hey, I'm Ryan. Nobody really knows me anymore because my company is in Afghanistan, and I'm supposed to be with them. And thankfully enough, it was like, oh yeah, we got a C-17. You're leaving this day. So
that's pretty amazing, to be totally honest. Man to man, that is an amazing feat, and I get why you'd want to do that. I understand from other people talking about it. I'm still blown away by your commitment. Okay, I'm going to go back. And was it, I want to show them, or was it a sense of loyalty that I can't leave them behind? What was it that drove you?
There was a bit of of all that, but a lot of it was unfinished business. The biggest thing for me was after I stepped on the IED, we could intercept the Taliban radio communications, and they were celebrating and playing that stupid music that they play for, when they get a victory or whatnot. And I made up my mind, laying there that day, that I was going to come back and you didn't beat me. And so, yeah, there was a lot of that, and it's just, the camaraderie and me wanting to be back with, my brothers, because, if I could do anything to make sure that they don't go through that pain that I went through, then, that I wanted to do that. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of that. But yeah, it's from, I getting blown up September 2010 to being back in Afghanistan on an ODA March 2012. And I was in the most IED'd area in Afghanistan at the time, which was Panjwai district, Kandahar province. So yeah, it was one of those, like, careful what you wish for kind of things.
Because you just might get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reading my notes. You were reassigned back to Special Forces and did another 8 deployments, including South America.
So, yes, I went back to Afghanistan 5 times, and then I went South and Central America, I think 4 times there. And then when I retired from the Army, I went back to Afghanistan twice as a contractor. Oh, my goodness.
There's just no stopping you, is there?
I'm
sure your people in your family are like, what are you going to do about Ryan? No one can tell this kid nothing.
Yeah, probably. I've definitely probably put some gray hairs on some people's heads. Oh, my goodness.
For sure. Yeah. So then you wrote this, you got inspiration to write this book, Tip of the Spear, the incredible story of an injured Green Beret's return to battle. How did that come about?
So it actually came about as writing therapy. It was actually journaling. I had went back to Afghanistan 2016, 17, 18, and 19 as a Green Beret. And so all those deployments in a row, you didn't have a lot of time for self-help. And I needed it because I was having anger issues, just victimization, entitlement, just this poor me I was going through when, I felt like I was owed something. And I was talking to our chaplain one day, and he said, you ever thought about just writing things out? Because my biggest complaint that I had was, I can go to a bar with a buddy, sit there, and we can spill all of our, everything out on the table there. But when you go home and I go home, it's just dead air because, it was just talk. And he said, well, have you ever thought about writing? Like, well, no, I haven't. But 2017 trip, I just needed to vent, and I figured, let me give this writing thing a try. And it just started pouring out into journaling. And then after that, I just wanted I had this life story, and I had a few people read it, and they said, man, you need to have this looked at. This is really powerful stuff, and people need to read it. So there's some convincing and just getting a hold of other military authors, and they read the script, and it went from there, and editor picked it up and said, I would love to edit this. And then an agent got it, and he said, oh yeah, we need to get this out. This has to be a book. People need to read it.
This needs to be a movie or a film or something on television, something.
Because it's not that's the thing, is the cover and the name of it, it sounds like a chest-pounding war story, but it's not. It's about overcoming adversity, mental health, and it's very raw.
And I think the thing that's really powerful about this, Ryan, is you said something about journaling. And my experience has been this. I'm not a big journaler now. However, it's impossible for me to lie to myself and write at the same time. I can lie to myself when I'm talking. I can diminish, I can justify, I can minimize stuff. But when I'm writing, something happens. It taps into a more emotional part of my brain. I don't know what it is, and it becomes very honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you completely. That book, it does. There's points in my life where I read back in the book and I'm just like, wow, I was such a child at that point. Or man, I can't believe the mental health issue, the struggles that I had. Oh yeah, it's very raw.
Where can people get the book?
So Amazon is an awesome platform to get it on. It's also sold in major bookstores, Barnes & Noble, stuff like that. But majority of the people, I would say Amazon, and you can find the link for it at ryanmhendrickson.com. So.
And the reason that website is important is you are raising money to go to like Ukraine, but you got to clear landmines to help the people there. Can people donate on your website?
Yes, they can. Yeah, this will be my second trip back to Ukraine and fundraising for landmine and booby trap removal, so civilians can get back into their areas and start to rebuild. What
is your website one more time?
ryanmhendrickson.com.
Now, Ryan, is that spelled with a Y or an I?
ryanmhendrickson.com.
And you were going to be heading to Ukraine to do that. And when you get back, we got to do two things. By the way, I'm in Florida. Mm-hmm. Ryan's in Florida. We got to get together for coffee. And I might be the old guy that looks at you like, oh, my goodness, I promise I will talk to you like a normal guy. But we got to have you back on the show. I really want to examine the mental health aspect of your recovery. Ryan, thanks so much for your service and being guest on Law Enforcement Today's show. Very much appreciated. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on there. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our guests so much for coming on the Law Enforcement Today radio show. The Law Enforcement Today radio show is a nationally syndicated radio show broadcast on numerous stations once a week and growing. If you enjoyed the podcast version of the show, please do me a big favor. Tell a friend. I'll be back in just a couple days with a brand new episode of the Law Enforcement Today radio show and podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.